It's always the same. Left-wingers and right-wingers cannot agree on anything. Therefore it was a surprise to many when on November 30th, 2017, when the Left Greens formed a coalition government with the Progressive Party and the Independence Party. And contrary to what everyone else thought at the time, the government has lasted and appears to be going quite strong. And in this video I'm gonna just go through many of the legislations and things that the government is working on and just rank it from good to meh to bad. Okay, there we are. I think, yeah, I don't have a left green pin, so I'm using Alþýðubandalagið instead. It is very important to note that the government of Iceland is more than just the Prime Minister. Obviously Katrín doesn't get everything she wants from this coalition, neither does Bjarni or Sigurður. That it's very obvious when three parties form a coalition together that some secessions have to be made. A lot of the voters of the Left Greens have a problem with this, but I will remind them that they got 16% of the popular vote in the last election and are still the second largest party in parliament. So how much did you expect you were gonna get, honestly? And of course true power, in terms of where legislations come from, lies with, the cabinet as a whole and the various committees and subcommittees set up by the parliament each given time. Having put that out of the way, now let's just go over to the things that the government is working on. I need to also note that of course I have my own personal biases, but I'm gonna try to be as objective and neutral in this video as I possibly can. But yeah, if somebody else were to make a video exactly like this, he might have some different interpretations. Now the biggest obvious success that I think nobody can really disagree on is the lengthening of the maternity leave. Maternity leave is gonna be lengthened for up to 12 whole months, meaning that I believe that mothers will get 8 months and fathers will get 4 months. How this will affect same-sex couples, I'm not sure, but honestly I don't really care about the details that much. And also they are raising the child support payment, so they're not just getting less money or the same amount of money over a longer period of time, but they're getting the same amount they would have usually gotten just for a longer period. Thus in other words, they get a full paid maternity leave for up to 12 months, which the parents can then I think it was like they get 3 months and 3 months and then 3 months that they can decide on who gets what. Or, like I said, I don't have kids myself, so this is not really my headache, but I'm being told that this is very positive, so I'm gonna put this under the positive section. Then there is the samgöngusáttmáli, as put forth by Sigurður Ingi Jóhannsson. And this one is a bit controversial, but basically the government is gonna spend the highest amount of money that it's ever spent in our history over the course of 10 years or something like that to improve Icelandic roads and also greatly hopefully improve the road infrastructure here in Reykjavik, as well as creating separate lanes for the bus system to make the bus system more efficient, make it easier for people to have that as an option to get timely back and forth from their home and work and school and etc. Yeah, this is a massive spending program. Now, the reason why it's a bit controversial is because nobody agrees on what projects they should take on first. Now, and this is where I just want to say to everybody, people, obviously you want your roads in your neighborhood to be fixed first, or you want your bridge next to your village or your farm to be fixed first, but people, we have a whole country with millions of kilometers of roads, most likely, and many of them are in poor shape, so obviously they had to prioritize in sense, well, the way I read into it is that they were prioritizing mainly in terms of safety. So if there's a bad road or a bad turn or something here that it's not really a big safety hazard, but it's kind of annoying to drive through, that's lower on the list than something that's considered more dangerous. So obviously not everything will be fixed all at once, but the fact that the government is allocating hundreds of billions of kronur for this 120 billion kronur, if I remember correctly, or maybe that was just the part for Reykjavik, but an astoundingly high amount of money. It means that yes, something is being done, but we can argue endlessly about what exact prioritization we should take, and that is actually just too boring. So that's definitely going into the positive category. Next issue. Next up we have the lífskjarasamningar. So basically last year, around May 1st I believe, the biggest unions for Iceland's unskilled workers, a majority of the population, people such as myself, well, not a majority of the population, but a huge portion of the Icelandic workforce are, like myself, unskilled service job workers. And we of course wanted higher pay because inflation is creeping in, it's hard to buy a house, etc, etc. And the government actually stepped into the negotiations between the job providers and the unions and came up with the so-called lífskjarasamningar, which basically means that not only did we get a pay increase, but the pay increase, there will be several more pay increases that will come gradually up until, I believe, either the beginning or the end of the year 2022. So, in other words, in one clean stroke, the government put an end to one of the biggest pay strikes in recent Icelandic memory, just by putting this one law into effect, which is quite substantial. Now, there are other people, like nurses are one union, for example, who have been now for an entire year without any pay hikes and are currently without having a work deal, a kjarasamningur. I don't know how that's translated. And yeah, there have been some strikes there, and nurses are resigning. So the medical system is currently understaffed because they're not getting paid enough and they're unsure about their work future. But overall, the government has been very good in this regard, in regulating the job market and getting people higher wages. And it should be noted that while everybody wanted even higher wages, people always have, these high-minded ideas on how much money they should earn. Usually when laws like this are signed into law, there's a lot of negative feedback. Like everybody is disgruntled and says, "Oh, we were ratted out by the union leaders," or whatever. This time you could hear very little of such objecting voices. Now, not to say that everybody was dancing in the street out of happiness, but the lack of a negative reaction seems to me indicate that it was overall very positive. So yeah, listing lífskjarasamningur under positive. Then we have orkuskiptin. So when the government first came together, they signed an agreement stating that Iceland should become carbon neutral by 2040, which is a very ambitious undertaking, and they are currently working on something, I guess, to reduce greenhouse emissions, and also are working very diligently to find ways to reduce plastic waste. How well that is going, I think it's going fine, but honestly this is a topic that's so huge it really requires its own video. But let's just say for this video, for the sake of the argument, that I'm also going to file that under positive. Then we have healthcare, and to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed in this regard because there hasn't been a lot of improvement as far as I can tell, but there hasn't really been anything negative steps backwards either. Things seem to be just sort of moving along as usual. Iceland does have a government-funded insurance system and a healthcare system. It's a bit complicated, but I'd say overall it's a pretty good system. Now, the positive change that has been enacted this year was that now psychiatric help is going to be moved under the current existing medical healthcare system. Now this has the effect that now if you want to go to a shrink, it means it will cost you the same as going to a doctor. Before going to a shrink, they were usually private employees, and you would have to pay quite a bit of money to go to regular shrink therapy. So I think this is a huge step forward. Now this system is currently being worked on. Like, waiting lists for shrinks are not going quite long right now, probably because way more people now want to go see shrinks, so there aren't enough shrinks available. So, you know, so some adjustments will have to be made, obviously, and that all takes time. Anyway, I'm also going to put that under positive. By the way, I'm not saying that everything the government does is positive. I just decided to go through the positive things first before moving on to the other things. So it's not a biased list in that way. That's the way I organized it. Then we have the new scholarship/student loan program, which I've been told by everybody is positive. Now, I actually went to a meeting where the Minister of Education and Culture, Alfredsdóttir, was, showing slides, going through how overall people in the future and from now on will pay less money in student loans. But I didn't quite understand it. Like, I understood the paying less part, but other than that, I don't quite know how it works. I don't have any. I have a little bit of outstanding student loans, but I think I've paid most of them down by now, so I don't really think about this stuff anymore. But I'm told it's a huge improvement, and overall people might expect to pay up to 40% less in student loans. So I'm gonna definitely put that under positive. It's just something that I don't know anything about.